One, what's going to be the centralized theme or the takeaway that I need somebody to get from this video? Two, has anybody else talked on this topic? And if they have, what can I bring different to the table? You gotta stop playing with your life. Here's what I mean. So I had a buddy who reached out to me and he was like, man, I've just been through so much loss, so much trauma over the last couple years, and I really want to share my story. What do you think? And so of course the answer was absolutely, you should be sharing your story, because no matter what, somebody could learn from that, somebody could get inspired by that, somebody could, you could save a life on that. She's like, yeah, but I don't know what is the platform that I should be building on, right? Like, it's easy for you have an audience on Instagram, you've built with the podcast, you got an email list. Like, for you it should be easy, but I have no audience. Like, I've never done this online thing. And I was like, man. And it got me to thinking, and I wanted to share this with you guys, because I was like, man, if I had to start over again, this is what I told him. If I had to start all over again, even with the podcast, no matter what I was doing, I would have started on YouTube. And I think that anybody out there who's thinking, should I create a YouTube channel? The answer is absolutely yes. And there's a couple reasons why I say that. I think the first thing is, even if you have no subscribers, even if you have no audience at all, what I think YouTube allows you to do is to be able to build while no one's watching. And a lot of the times in the beginning, that's the way that you need to build. Why? Is because first and foremost, it's going to help you be able to articulate your dream in a better way, right? Because we all, I think at the end of the day, we have a dream, we have a message, we have a mission. But a lot of the times we're afraid because we don't know exactly how to articulate it. If we come across the right person, and you might share it the first time, but they say, hey, what do you do? Right? For example, one of the things that I've always taught people when they say, how do you build relationships? How do you have charisma? How do you build rapport with people so fast? Well, the first thing that I learned, and this came from the book of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and it was, be more interested than interesting. Okay, so it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? Well, for me, I would always ask people, and I learned this early on, but I would ask people, okay, well, what are you passionate about? So we're at a networking event, and you ask me, hey, Casanova, what do you do? And, I tell you, maybe I say I'm in real estate, or maybe I say, I'm an entrepreneur, or maybe I say I'm a dream activator. And people are like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, what does that mean? Right? So I tell them what it is, but more importantly, I'm trying to hurry up and shut up about me, so then I can learn about them. But I don't say, well, what do you do? I say, what are you passionate about? And they're like, huh? Yeah, like, what are you passionate about? Once you get somebody to open up what they're passionate about, they might say, oh, I love dogs, right? I love breeding dogs. I want to be a veterinarian, or maybe I'm going to school for, being a veterinarian. Or they say, man, I'm loving creating content right now. I just started me up a podcast. Okay, tell me more about it. Who's the audience? What problem are you looking to solve? How did you come to that problem, right? So I try to be interested, and I'm always trying to stay engaging with what they're saying, because that's going to allow me to learn so much more about them. But more importantly, it's going to allow me to figure out what problem I can solve for them, right? So that's the first thing, is understanding I got to be able to articulate what my vision, my dream is. And if nobody else is watching, that's the best time to do it. Because in the beginning, make no mistake about it, you're going to suck. You're going to suck whether you're online or whether you're offline. So if you can figure out how do you articulate your vision, how do you articulate your dream, the best time to do it is when nobody else is watching. Now, so that's the first one. Second reason is, it forces you to have more discipline. If you look at so many businesses that have survived over, what do they say, 98% of businesses don't make it past year 10. I want to say it's like 90% don't make it past year 5, right? But the ones who are still in business, most of the time, they didn't have some revolutionary idea. They didn't have the technology that was patented. No, they just stayed consistent. When everybody switched up, when everybody tried to go a different route. Now, of course, there is the 1% to 2% that go out of business, right, because they didn't evolve. But at the same time, I think that that's a slow death, right? Most of the time, if you look at even Toys R Us, Kmart, things like that, yes, they went out of business and we look at them now, but they didn't go out of business overnight. But because they kept showing up every single day, that's why they stayed in business as long as they did. And I think that what YouTube, more than any other social media platform, because yes, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have all of these other short form content platforms, which, yeah, you could go viral really quickly. But with a YouTube video, most of the time it's going to be at least ideally 8 minutes, you know, somewhere between 8 to 10, 8 to 12 minutes. Now it could go, of course, 25, 30, 3 hours. But when you have to do a video that's at least 8 minutes, that allows you, or that forces you, I should say, that forces you to figure out, one, what's going to be the centralized theme or the takeaway that I need somebody to get from this video. Two, has anybody else talked on this topic? And if they have, what can I bring different to the table? Right, which is a whole nother thing. Like, you have to be very calculated on it, because the algorithm wants to see who's engaging with your video, and most of the time the people who are engaging with your video, you bring a different flair, perspective, or uniqueness to the topic. And so I think that we can all do that, but what we also have to be focused on is discipline. First and foremost, if you're not disciplined, you'll never get that result. And YouTube forces you on that. And at the same time, if you can, one of the things that we always say is how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you can be disciplined in putting up content, right, it could also make you disciplined in following up with your, prospects. It can also make you disciplined in having that weekly meeting every week, right? It can also make you disciplined in your home life, your marriage, your kids, whatever it might be. So that's another reason why I absolutely, love starting on YouTube, even if nobody's watching. The next thing that I love about it is it gives you a long-term perspective, right? And a lot of the times, especially when you're getting into investing, a lot of people, they're looking to get rich quick. Right? Real estate, one of the most popular methods is flipping or wholesaling. And there's nothing wrong with them. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of people don't want the long-term, slow simmer, even though we all know that takes the best. People have a microwave mentality, right? When nothing great ever comes, like as things go along, think about it. As anything goes along, most of the time, we absolutely love it the most. We cherish it more. Now, let's use it as a perspective of when you have a child. So anybody who's listening at this, you have a child. And that first, 9 months, you're excited, right? And you're like, man, I'm about to have a baby. This is all great. Then the baby comes out. You're like, oh, man, this is so great, right? But then after a while, after year 1, year 2, it starts to fade a little bit. And I don't mean the love for the child fades, but the situation or the circumstances that you're in, you're like, oh my God, like this is a lot, right? But think about it, as time goes on, as you get to hit more milestones, right? So what do those milestones look like? That milestone could be, graduation from kindergarten. That milestone could be going into middle school. That milestone could be, homecoming in high school. That milestone could be getting their, GED or, their diploma. That milestone could be, going to college. There's so many things, but as it continuously, grows, it's like fine wine. It gets better and better and better. And I think that that's what YouTube allows you to do as well. One, you're going to be rewarded for the longer that you're consistent, right? We all want those views at the end of the day, right? Well, imagine in the beginning, you're only going to be getting 50 views, per video. You're only going to be getting 100 views per video. But if you stay consistent with it, now all of a sudden you got 1,000 views per video. Now all of a sudden you got 5,000 views per video. Then before you look up, you get 100,000 views. And on top of that, you're getting paid for these views. Which is another reason why I said if I were to start all over again, and I'm doing it right now. I'm building the YouTube. As you guys can see, I'm focused on being consistent, right? I'm putting up at least 2 videos per week. I try to do these walks every single day, but I also got to make sure that I have something to talk about, a perspective that I can bring that, like I said, it's unique. It adds value. And so that's why I think for anybody, if you're considering starting a YouTube channel, you absolutely should. Right? And it doesn't matter if you have 1 subscriber, if you have 100 subscribers, or if you have 1,000 subscribers, right? It's about the long-term game. Here's another thing that it also gives you. It gives you the ability to showcase your body of work in terms of growth, right? So what do I mean by that? When you're first starting out, like we said, you're going to suck a little bit, and that's okay, right? Not everything is going to be perfect, and that is okay. But if we can focus on showing people the journey, they'll come along with us and they'll be more excited to stick with us. Because it's like, man, I remember, think about it. We all remember nieces, nephews, best friends who have kids, right? Anyone that it's like, I remember when you was yay high, right? Now you bigger than me. I remember when you couldn't even walk and talk. Now you walking across the stage talking about valedictorian. Like, all of those things are what bring memories, what brings joy to life, what brings perspective to life. And so that's the thing that I want you to be thinking about. You get to showcase your body of work. When I first got started in the real estate game, the best thing about it was social media was around. So anybody who wants to go back and look at my history from my very first sale, right, where they didn't even know that I never sold anything prior, right, to me. And shout out to Kurt and Megan, two clients who just were phenomenal. We built a great relationship. Family's a great family. But that was the thing that I told them after we had closed on day one. I was like, hey, you guys might not know this, but I want to thank you again because you guys were my first clients. And they're like, what? We thought the way that you have been doing this forever. And I was like, no, I absolutely haven't. I appreciate you guys allowing me to, help you guys along this journey. And so what was great about it, it was because I didn't have other clients. What was great about it was because I didn't know anything about real estate. All I had was determination. I had will. All of those things wound up helping me to be able to make sure that I served them at the highest level possible, right? And so that's the thing that I would say to you when you're thinking about, man, I don't want to keep showing up on YouTube because I don't have any clients, right? Even though it can help grow my business, I don't want to keep showing up on YouTube because I feel like I suck. I don't want to keep showing up on YouTube because I feel like nobody's watching. All of those things are just building, one, your character. It's saying who you are, what you stand for, the discipline that you have, because before anybody takes a risk on you, they want to know how persistent you're going to be. They want to know how much discipline do you have when things go wrong, when things aren't going great, right? Think about it. If you're somebody in real estate, so much of my audience follows me because of real estate. If you're someone in real estate, when that property doesn't sell in the first week, when that property doesn't sell in the first 3 weeks, when it's still on the market, and you got to go back to your clients and say, hey, we got to do a price reduction, what happens? Whether it's an investor, whether it's a homeowner, it doesn't matter. They are now looking, because they're going to be as emotional as they come. Trust and believe. But it doesn't matter what it is. What happens when you have a coaching client and you told that client that, hey, we're going to do this launch for you in 30 days and we're going to go get you $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 on this first launch. And what happens when you put out that first email and it's crickets? Right? What happens when you do that first live and no one shows up, or maybe 3 people show up, nobody buys? Right? What happens when you do that Zoom and you had 150 registrants, but only 10 people showed up and nobody buys? That's when your clients are going to be coming back to you to say, hey, you told me. And at those very moments is where you have to stay cool, calm, collected, but you have to also understand that this is a part of my growth. This is a part of my journey. And so YouTube allows you all of that. It allows you to be disciplined. It allows you to have long-term growth and success where you don't have to work as hard on day 1,000 as you did on day 1. Many of other places, right? Especially if you're in any type of sales. That's the reason why we talk about MRR, or monthly recurring revenue. Why? Is because that's the thing that allows you to not have to put the same amount of work in. And essentially, it's almost as good as passive income, right? You build it one time. Yes, you still have to keep servicing it, but you don't have to keep selling it over and over and over again. So if you're somebody right now who you're thinking about, man, I want to get my message out there. I want to start building my audience, but I don't know where to start. Trust me, I built the podcast. I know what podcast can give you access to, the relationships, the conversations, which are second to none. But at the same time, I know that YouTube is not going anywhere. It allows, if you can keep somebody on a video for 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 20 minutes, and you're sharing your journey, your story, that right there, you're now building a deeper connection than you ever would, which is why podcasting works great. But versus a social media platform, you're building a way deeper connection than you ever would just on a TikTok or an Instagram or even a YouTube short, right? That's that quick dopamine hit to get them to stop scrolling. But at the end of the day, they won't build the connection with them like these types of videos will. So this is why I encourage you, start building on YouTube today. Remember, in the dream we trust, dream builder, but you got to take action on something. Otherwise, that dream that you have, it'll only merely be a fantasy. That's all for this one. Catch me on the next one.